Hi friends, welcome back to Julie at Home. Today's video is on resources we use to study the French Revolution. So a couple notes before we start. So I did this with a 5th and a 3rd grader. This is not a necessary unit by any means. In fact, if you have sensitive kids or you're just not particularly interested in the subject, you can just learn that it happened and move on. You don't need to delve deep into this. It is a gruesome topic. So again, if you do have sensitive kids, if you're sensitive, you don't want to expose them to this, just don't. It's fine. I really would only include this if you have a personal interest in it, which is why I did. I just have always been fascinated by this. And I know my kids I've been working with are not super sensitive. I thought my kids would enjoy it and they did. So because we did it, I am sharing these resources with you. And if you're not doing a unit though, you could pull like 1 or 2 resources and just learn a little bit about that person or that thing. So yeah, I'm giving these to you. I'm gonna start with our curriculum though. Our curriculum that we've been using for history for a couple years now is Curiosity Chronicles, the French Revolution, and this is the French Revolution of, most people know it's the French Revolution of 1789, not the ones, there's one later 1830s, there's a bunch of stuff that happens later. This is the big one, 1789, and yeah, so that's what we're doing. And then we went all the way through Napoleon taking over. So there's 2 chapters. Chapters 47, 48 are lavish living in France, kind of setting you up for what it was like beforehand, and then heads roll in France. And then chapters 55 and 56 are on Napoleon. So we kind of did the big portion of the revolution first and then came back to Napoleon a little bit later. The other main thing we used for this unit is the Revolutions podcast by Mike Duncan. I mentioned him before. We also listened to the American Revolution, and he's gone through a lot of historical revolutions. This is season 3, I think, season 3 of his podcast. It's from many years ago now, almost 10 years ago, but it's still obviously very good. I don't think a lot of the history of this subject matter has changed. He goes very in depth. It's not made for kids. It's made for adults, but I really enjoyed it. He tells it like a story. My kids really enjoy it. But again, if you have sensitive kids or they're not really interested, this probably wouldn't be for them. But if you're interested in history at all, I highly recommend the Revolutions podcast by Mike Duncan. I would say that was kind of our main spine, if you could call it that, for this study. He went through in depth from beginning to end, not just all the politics, but also the war that was happening as this was all happening, which I didn't even realize. So yeah, France was at war with all these other European powers. That's how Napoleon comes to power. And he also goes all the way through Napoleon. So he starts early 1780s through Napoleon. Then I do have this one other book that's kind of a general French Revolution book, and it's You Wouldn't Want to Be an Aristocrat in the French Revolution. I enjoy this series. My kids enjoy this series. It just really engages them. I've used books from the series in many of the history units I have. They do tend to pull out more of the gruesome parts of history, and my kids do enjoy that. And this is actually based on a true person who actually did end up escaping to England, I believe. So we did that. Next, I have some biographies. I have Who Was Marie Antoinette? And I think there's a couple different series that have Marie Antoinette. Obviously she's a popular one to learn about. I have Robespierre, Master of the Guillotine. And this is a wicked history book. And then I do have Who Was Napoleon? It was kind of different. He's not part of that first part, but you could also just learn about Napoleon. Really fascinating. I did not know a lot about him. You could also look up Louis XVI. Danton was a very important revolutionary, D-A-N-T-O-N. Maybe Philippe the Duc d'Orléans. He was later learned as Philippe Égalité. I don't know if there's something on him. He could be interesting to learn about. So there's lots of different people here you could learn about. Those are the ones I found that I thought were good. To finish up books, I have one that I had my 5th grader read, and I actually also read it separately so we could talk about it. But this is The Lace Maker and the Princess. It's a historical fiction about a girl who's 9, 10, around that age, who ends up becoming a companion of the Princess of France. Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette only had one daughter, so and it's just before and as the revolution's starting. So it really kind of paints a picture of the class struggle at the time and what leads to the French Revolution, and has her thinking through a lot of these difficult concepts. While I'm on books, I'm also just going to mention, because again, we did this because I'm interested, is I have a couple other books that are for adults. that I wanted to share with you on the French Revolution that I listened to on audiobook at the time. The first is Lafayette, Hero of Two Worlds, and this is by Mike Duncan, same person who did the Revolutions podcast, and it goes through Lafayette's life, so it actually covers both the American Revolution and the French Revolution and stuff before, after, between, because it's about Lafayette, and I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the audio as well. Sometimes, you know, audiobooks can be hit or miss. And then the other one is a historical fiction on Adelaide Lebel-Guiard, and she was a painter at the time. She became famous just before the revolution was starting, became prominent. She was one of only 2 women that were admitted into the big salon, the academy in Paris. The whole art world is really interesting, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute as well. She was an artist at the time. Anything for me, historical fiction about artists, female artists in history, like especially like 1700s and earlier, I'm there, so I really enjoyed listening to that, and I'll have all this linked below. I also listened to an audiobook, and that was well done. Since we're talking about art, I also did get into art and music a little bit. Let me start with music actually, and then I'll circle back around. Mozart is at this time. It was a culture corner about Mozart in our curriculum, and I didn't get too in depth in Mozart because I'm hoping to get more in depth with him later. He was, I believe, Austrian, or he's not French. So we did learn more about, though, Joseph Boulogne, Le Chevalier du Saint-Georges. There was a movie made about him recently, and I can't seem to find it. I want to watch it myself and see if it's appropriate, but I haven't even been able to do that yet. So if you know of how to watch it, let me know in the comments below. I think it's just called Chevalier, which is spelled like that. But this is a book, I believe it was written by like an 8-year-old. Yeah, written by Amélie May Wright, who's aged 8. He's a black composer, contemporary of Mozart. He was also like great at a lot of different things. So this is just like a really simple biography of him. But there's just not a lot of info on him. Hopefully people will catch on and there'll be more resources on him going forward, because it would be really great, because he seemed like a really, really fascinating person. So we read this and listened to some music by him. Obviously not played by him, but modern people playing his music. I did like a mini art lecture, Art of the French Revolution, for my children, and I won't go through the whole thing right now, but I'll have some links below that kind of can give you an overview. Also, you can just look up, David was a really famous artist at the time. He did some neoclassical stuff after studying in Rome before the revolution started, and then he did some famous paintings of the revolution, and then switched to allegiance to Napoleon and ended up doing the famous painting of Napoleon on a white horse that's kind of rearing up. Napoleon crossing the Alps. He also did one of Napoleon crowning himself emperor, so he's really important. And then there's the 2 female artists I mentioned before, Adelaide Lebel-Guiard, as well as, I'm forgetting her first name, but her last name's Vigée-Lebrun, who was the portraitist for Marie Antoinette. And so she did some really famous portraits of Marie Antoinette. She ended up having to flee during the revolution itself because she was so close to her and other aristocrats. So she is really fascinating as well. So you could look her up and her art. And then there's some other random ones. And again, I'll have some links below so you can check them out. We did watch some movies. We watched the older Marie Antoinette, which I think I found on Amazon Prime, if I'm correct. I think I bought it. It's just a childhood favorite for me. We didn't end up watching Tale of Two Cities, although you could, and you could also read that if you felt like it. There's a more modern Marie Antoinette. I didn't watch that one with my kids. I don't know if it's 100% appropriate. Like the older one, there's nothing like inappropriate in it. They found it a little bit boring, honestly. There's a lot of dialogue, not a lot of action. But yeah, the newer one might, I can't remember. I've seen it and it's well done, but it might have some 1 or 2 inappropriate scenes. So just screen that ahead of time. I just mentioned I'm looking for the Chevalier movie. I would love to see that. There's also one that was done. This might be a little bit, it's kind of tangential, but Johnny Depp was in one in France, and I think it's called Dubarry. I'll have it here. And it's about the mistress, one of the mistresses of Louis XV, who was just really fascinating. Like she ended up being like a rival with Marie Antoinette and stuff. And so I am also trying to figure out how to watch that one. It also might not be appropriate for children, and it's in French, but that could be one you could look for. The other thing is the Scarlet Pimpernel. There's actually several different people have done it several different times. There's like movies, TV shows, whatever. There's a mini series that I particularly like, and I can never remember the name of the other famous actors, like the from Downton Abbey, the mom, the countess. Well, I'll see if I can find it and link it below, but I'm sure there's other good ones as well. That's just one that I'm partial to. And I don't know if I mentioned it before. It's not a movie, but there is the musical, The Scarlet Pimpernel, and I'm not sure that you could get, I don't think there's like a movie of it. You can see some scenes like on YouTube if you search for it, and the soundtrack is fantastic if you can find it. So I really enjoy it. So anyway, we listened to that. We also made some food. I have mentioned several times already Max at Tasting History. He will be linked below. He has several really good ones for this area, this time period. We didn't do Lafayette's duck, but that's one you could do. We also didn't do the Marie Antoinette one. He has an episode of Marie Antoinette where he makes some chocolate things that I thought about doing and I didn't get to. We did make pomme de terre l'économie, which pomme de terre is potatoes, and it's just a really fascinating history of potatoes and people weren't eating them and how they got them to eat them. Anyway, so that's a cool one, and it's like mashed potato meatballs. I don't know how else to describe them, but they're yummy. And then what else do we, oh, and then for Napoleon we made chicken meringue. Another great, I mean, all of Max's episodes are fantastic. It's another great episode learning about Napoleon. It was actually pretty funny. It's a pretty funny one. So and that was really good. I actually did like kind of my own version of it. Like I riffed on it this last week for a meal for dinner. So chicken meringue, pretty good. Our curriculum, Curiosity Chronicles, also comes with some like additional things you could do, and one of the things was also to make cream puffs, so that is another option. We did do a craft, and that is we made these little cockades, and we just made them out of felt because I had the felt on hand. Usually they'd be made out of ribbon, and it's like it looked pretty confusing how it's kind of tied, but it's made in like concentric circles and these represent different things, and off the top of my head I can't remember what's what. So I remember the white is like for the Bourbons, the monarchy, but I can't remember what the other ones are. But this ended up being a symbol of the Republic, and for a while during like the Reign of Terror, everybody was wearing them. So like, I was gonna put safety pins on them and like put them to our clothes and stuff. So the kids made a bunch with me so we could walk around wearing cockades. So yeah, we learned about a little bit about the history and meaning of the French flag as well as we made them. As we went, we did work on some unit books. So these are like Waldorf unit books. I'm forgetting the name of the shop I bought them, but I'll link it below. This is actually mine. And I'm just to show you a few things we did. So we did a map. I thought it was important to know what we were talking about and what Mike was talking about in revolutions. So we just marked a couple things. This is the Loire River, Versailles, and Paris, Varennes. Which the royal family tried to escape, and they made it as far as Varennes, so they made it pretty far. The Vendée, which is an important area during the revolution, they were more Catholic, really, and one of the parts of the revolution was trying to get rid of Catholicism and religion in general, and so the Vendée really pushed back hard against that, and then they were really beaten down hard. But it was a lot of people lost, a lot of violence in the Vendée as the rebels lasted for many years, resisted. And then I labeled some of the things around it. Then we also, I think it's important if you are going to learn this, to talk about the three estates. We learned about them in several places, but the three estates are basically how French society was structured before the revolution, with the king at the top, and then there's the clergy is the first estate, the nobility is the second estate, and everybody else is the third estate. And so obviously there's like huge class gulf problems, the gulf of wealth and all that. So we did a page on that, and then I just had and then we did a timeline. Most of the events happen between 1789 and 1799, really like 1795, 6, I think in there. A lot of the events that we learn about, a lot of them happen right on top of each other. For example, the king was executed in 1793. So, yeah. We did that in there as well. And then I just had my kids do pages for like different events. So there's like the storming of the Bastille, the Women's March on Versailles, different things like that. And sometimes I had them just, if we covered a bunch of things, choose one. And also we did narrate some of the people we read about. So they did narrations on Marie Antoinette, on Robespierre, on Napoleon. It was mostly just them drawing things. So this is like the tennis court oath. And this is the Women's March on Versailles. She did little speech bowls in there, like give us bread. One last thing that I didn't do with my kids, but just for myself, is the fashion of the time is really fascinating. The fashion in the Western world really changed dramatically between like 1770 and 1800. It changed several times. You can really almost like pinpoint a couple years in there. The style of the stays, which are like precursor to the corsets, changed shape dramatically. The dresses shapes changed. There's a lot of changes that happened. So I will link some below some videos I've watched of people making outfits from that time or talking about outfits from that time, because I just find it really fascinating. So I did start a pair of stays from the 1780s. And I think it's late 17, I don't know. So I started at 1780 stays, and I'm still in the middle of it. It's kind of been set aside for a little bit, but I'll come back to it eventually. It's just for fun. I'm losing my light, and I think I'm covered all the resources. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Again, resources linked below. If you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, this was just fun for me to delve into a little bit. Until next time, friends, I hope you are all well. Bye.